My name is Christine Gray. I am your host today for the Taking Back Our Economy series of podcasts presented by the Community Exchange Alliance. We are a learning community where people can share experiences, knowledge, insights, and information about the limitations of the present monetary system and the use of alternative mediums of exchange, such as sharing, swapping, gifting, bartering, and local community currencies. We believe that by bringing people together to share what they have done, what they have learned, the tools that they have developed, and how it has changed their communities, it will motivate us all to take action to reduce the disparities caused by an ever-growing fixation on the pursuit of money. Today, my fellow founders of the Community Exchange Alliance, Anita Bieberg, Edgar Kahn, Tim Jenkin, and Martin Simon, are joined by our guest Gabriele Donati, the founder of Time Republic, to talk with us about his learnings from founding a time banking software company in 2012 and where that has gone today. The theme of our discussion today is People First, Software Second, the need for community and relationships. We will be discussing the relationship between software that many complementary currencies use and the role that it plays in activating an exchange community. Gabriele, welcome. Would you take a few minutes to introduce yourself, how you came to create Time Republic, where that endeavor has led you, where it now stands, and what are some of the core learnings that you have learned?
Hi, everyone. I'm Gabriele Donati. Thank you, Chris, for the introduction. I'm the co-founder of Time Republic, which is a digital time bank, or the way we like to call it. And I started together with a friend of mine, a high school friend of mine back in Switzerland. I'm originally from Switzerland in 2012. Back then, we didn't know what time banking was. We started this project because we look at society and we were not happy with it. So we were trying to find a way to fix it. And I think the core problem that we both faced, and we both, the core challenge that society has today is basically a lack of trust. Basically, we recognize that the core of every challenge, small, a fight with your partner or like a big conflict, there is always a lack of trust. And of course, we recognize that money, it's kind of responsible for that. So basically, we decided to play with the idea of creating a community or creating a platform. This was also before 2005, so before the social media revolution. So we had like a sketchy idea of how to bring it online. But so we were trying to find a way to create a place where money was out of the equation. And we had to find another type of currency to make it work. And of course, then by reading, by researching, we found out that this thing was already existing, and it's called time banking. And then we got to know Edgar and Chris and the time banking movement. We really wanted to target to a little bit of a younger generation, because we thought that if we wanted to scale this amazing idea of time banking, we had to target younger kids, and we had to move it online. So we had to create a platform where a little competitive with the big social media giants. So that's basically the core. That's how we started thinking and playing with this idea. And we kept the 30,000 foot goal, the vision, and trying to fix trust. This was basically the core element that led kind of the thread that it's always been present since day one. Then the sharing economy movement started, which was great because we thought, okay, now everybody's is on board. Now everybody understands how we need to create more trust between each other. But then soon it got corrupted, I think, pretty quickly, because they looked at trust in a very different way that we look at. And basically they just outsource trust like anything else in the market economy. So basically, you, for example, if you're Airbnb and you decide to basically rent your room, you're renting it not because you trust the person that is renting it and because you want to share, but you rent it first of all for a profit, and then because somebody else is basically bearing the burden of that risk. So it's either like Airbnb itself or like a credit card company or somebody else. So this is like outsourcing trust. And we truly believe that it's basically an individual responsibility that can only be established with reciprocity. So trust, it's only by that, by the individual responsibility and by a little risk factor that happens constantly on time banking. When you meet somebody new that you don't know and you ask him to do something or to come over or to do something for you, that's it. You can just rely on that little risk, but then the outcome is so much better. So this is more or less why we started and why we really put trust like higher than anything else. And in order to create trust, you have to create relationships between people. And this is basically the biggest difference. Today we live in a society where everything is turned into a transaction. Any potential, dynamic that is able to create relationship, it's basically transformed into transactions. Like even like dating today, you're on Tinder, you're swiping, or like you're delivering food, or you're like you need a lift to go somewhere, you just do it from an app and so forth. So every time you had a possibility to create a relationship with somebody, today technology is saying no. Let's not create a relationship. Let's just create a transaction because it's much easier for everybody else involved. So this is a big problem. So Time Republic also, and I believe time banking it's basically built on the premise that we don't want to create more transactions, but we want to create relationships. And that's why the 1=1 rule it's so great. And it's so great not because we are like, it's like saying we're not so concerned in measuring the value of your skills, but we're much more concerned in creating like meaningful relationships. Trust can open so many more doors than money at the end. So this is why we decided to start Time Republic. And so soon enough, the mayor of a town in northern Italy, in the city of Sarre, in the Valle d'Aosta in the north, contacted us and he said, listen, I have a big challenge. I need to create more civic engagement because for many reasons, one of the biggest reasons is, I don't know if you know the Italian situation, but basically small towns, small communities, mostly from the south, but also from the north, obviously, are kind of abandoned by the state because Italy is broke, so they don't have any money to allocate to everywhere. So basically, one is to find creative ways to create a civic engagement, basically. And why he wanted to do that? Because he needed people to help the community, the municipality, to clean up for the trash, or like help decorate a Christmas tree for Christmas, or like helping kids cross the street after school and so forth. And we start basically right away to create a dedicated time bank for them. And in doing that, they were able really to invite all the citizens and to engage them. And in exchange, the municipality would give them hours that then the citizen could basically spend either in the global community of Time Republic or within the group itself. And then at one point, the municipality said, listen, we have a challenge because we cannot really offer any service. If a citizen is asking for a service, us as administrator, we cannot really offer a skill. But we have, for example, spaces available in our buildings that we can actually rent for time. And this was a great idea that opened up so many other doors, because by doing that, we were able to basically find valuable things that the municipality could offer and the citizen could actually pay with time. So citizens could start like renting spaces, let's say if they needed like a place for a party, or they needed a workspace for a couple of hours, they were able to rent those spaces of the municipality. And then, since it worked rather well, we started talking with them about finding hybrid ways to pay bills. So, let's say the example is, let's say I'm a citizen and I get a parking ticket and I don't have the money to pay. What if I could actually provide a service to the municipality through time banking, or if I could pay the ticket with time? And this is basically what we started brainstorming with the municipality, which is still not implemented, but we started a discussion, which is for us was already major. And then they were even looking to housing, try to find like hybrid payments to pay, housing, with time coins or time credits and money itself. So was our first experience with basically working with local governments. And
Gabriele, thank you so much for sharing that. I do have a question about what you just shared with the town in Italy, which was really interesting. So did that get, you said it's still not in place? It is in place, it is working, or what's the deal on
it,
that?
it is in place. What's not in place, it's the hybrid payment mechanism. So yes, we're still working with them. We know they're still exchanging, but not this hybrid way of payment.
How the
Which,
hybrid being the money and time.
exactly, yes.
I'll just ask you this, and then we'll open it up to the whole group. How many how many people are involved in that town, and how many sort of exchanges are they doing? Is it just a little or quite a lot, or how's that going? Is the mayor happy?
Is the mayor was happy? Yes, it's kind of slowed down, but yes, as I said, not last 2 Christmas ago, they created this beautiful moment with the citizen that actually helped to decorate the main square altogether. Uh, they were hiring basically through Time Republic retirees, older people that are basically home doing nothing in basically patrolling schools and helping the kids cross the street and helping them with these simple tasks. So yeah, or they were organizing weekends where they had to clean like green spaces, parks and forests close by. So they create all sorts of projects of that kind. Yeah, which is great.
Let's just open it up to other questions from our panelists, and anything that points or questions or things that you would like to ask Gabriele or share yourselves in relation to this question of the software versus actually making things happen on the ground, and how those do or don't relate.
I was wondering how you marketed the idea, shared the idea, got people to join and be part of it.
So we never really spent any money in marketing. Pretty early on, we were lucky enough to be covered by local news, and that basically helped us create this basically word of mouth effect. So basically, we grew little by little. But yet, up until today, still word of mouth. We basically never spend like a dime in marketing, except like Facebook and social media. And yeah, now actually we're launching a new platform in a couple of weeks, and it's the first time that we have a small budget to basically do like a marketing campaign.
Do you have any connection with universities so that students are learning?
Yes, university. Yes, we work with a university in Italy a few years ago, the University of Messina, the city of Messina in the south, and was a great project because basically we start seeing time banking also on a different angle, and the way we propose the project also through a dedicated group with them is that basically we told them to look at Time Republic as like a portfolio building platform. So if the students, when they're like at school and they're maybe looking for a job, maybe they're in the last year and they're looking for a job, and the job is requiring like 5 years of experience, and of course you cannot have 5 years of experience if you're still studying. Maybe they could look at platforms like Time Republic and look like a history of jobs, of work that actually that person has done through through time banking, and maybe look at that as a portfolio instead of like a LinkedIn where basically the portfolio is filled out by the person that actually is selling itself. So time banking is also great because you can actually have a breakdown of all the hours that you've made, and basically you have like a rating from each person. Like you have like a rating with star system, and then people can also write comments, and actually basically you can break down, if you want, all those 10,000 hours that need to be a professional, and actually see every single hour what you did and what's the response of the person that got the service. So this is basically what we created for them, and it worked extremely well.
Martin, you're on.
Yeah, I'd just like to reinforce what you were saying about trust at the beginning, because in time banking, and I've been involved in strength-based community development ever since, and we have a saying that you build community at the speed of trust, and it's something that we really stick by, and is amazing how quickly you can build a sort of social trust back. A lot of the communities we work with have been pretty much messed around for a long time, particularly by local governments and central governments, and structural things that don't actually work for their benefit. They've been promised all sorts of things. They've had all sorts of surveys to say, how terrible life is for them, but pretty much, not much really has changed that much. But once they know that you're reliable and that you're on their side, it is extraordinary how quickly that trust comes back. We've been amazed. Today's discussions about software versus the relationships. We have another saying that I really hold to is finding your friends before you need them. A group in Torbay in the south coast of England here, who have set up a time banks, and they've set up their community development. So when COVID came, they were already knew and were in contact and connected with so many people that they're amazing people about how many contacts and how many people they can mobilize, because they've made those friendships first. And we have very sophisticated software there, and a group called Made Open, I think, are probably doing the best software certainly in Britain. None of it means anything unless you've actually made those friendships first and you've got those connections, because it's not easy to make connections. They don't make themselves as they used to anymore. You have to actually intentionally go out and make them. And we had a team of 15 community builders going out every day. We'd insist that they spent 3/4 of their working time out just talking with people, forming those connections. And I don't know how one does it without that input. And we were very lucky to be funded by the National Lottery to do that. And we're trying to say to the local authorities that you're working with, spend some time making connections as well as providing services. The role of the resources of the local authority should go into helping people make those connections, and then whatever happens has a chance of being led by people themselves. Anyway, I was just very interested in that trust thing. It's absolutely fundamental to everything we do.
That is so interesting what you were saying, Martin, about the community having the relationships in place before you build into the software and the structures, and before actually you mobilize around needs, even having those relationships in place. And I found myself thinking about what Gabriele was sharing, and that he was doing this in presumably a small town where everybody already knew each other. So all of those relationships were waiting to be mobilized, as it were, that there were relationships there, but they weren't actually doing very much, is what I was hearing from Gabriele, reading between the lines. Is that true, Gabriele?
Yes, absolutely. I realized after like 9 years, or maybe 8, that we were trying to force to build communities. We were really trying to force it with a shoehorn to build a community. I realized that a community cannot be created. It's something like very metaphysical, that you can basically, the best thing you can do is to try to provide tools to or a fertile ground for people to basically use, and then maybe eventually they can create community. Community is not like an entity that basically you can build. It's something that is a true community, or like a healthy community, or like a trustworthy community, happens basically organically. And I don't think there are ways, there is no alchemical formulas that actually can create that. We should have focused more on basically providing a tool that can basically facilitate, or basically, as I said, a fertile ground that can facilitate that. Tools we want to give to our users. We basically shift the all attention, basically, if up until today, because I didn't explain how Time Republic works. So Time Republic was based on basically on a one-to-one exchange. You post a request, the person that have the specific skill that you're looking for is alerted, and he responds, and then if you can start basically working together. And that worked pretty well, but there was something missing, because you can you do that, and you could create a lot of nodes, a lot of one-to-one exchange that is interesting, but you're not really creating like a community. If you want, you can think that you can create a global community by people exchanging things, but to be realistic, you cannot really do that. So we introduced a new module in the new Time Republic, where actually you can create your own community. So basically you can create a mini time bank within the bigger time bank, and the administrator of the group is actually like a bunch of tools that the regular user doesn't have, to basically moderate the community. And basically we shift the focus, instead of a one-to-one exchange, into more like building communities. And this is our approach. And we always said with you, Edgar and Chris, Time Republic, our approach is from the clouds to the ground. So we're like kind of this digital entity that is in the cloud, and we're trying to be global and digital, and then try to go on the ground and work on local communities. And you're doing the opposite. Basically, you're trying to build something from the ground up. So you really like get your hands dirty first, and then you try to build your digital space. And I don't know which one is the right one. Probably both, and we discussed that many times, that we're very complementary in a way, because we're trying to get to the same goal from two different angles. And I think that's the key. And so I don't know. I don't know anybody as the answer if it's community first of platform first. I think we just have to try to develop them both and see what the outcome is.
Tim, your thoughts or comments?
Yes, Gabriele, thanks for your explanation and your breakdown and your thoughts. My first experience of alternative currency was actually a Let's group in the 1990s, before the internet at all. And of course, it had to start, there was no software, so it had to start with the community in the first place. And it was really just, I saw a notice in a newspaper, come and listen to a talk, and someone gave a talk, and it was meant to operate in a particular area, and about 100 people turned up. So you almost had a community right there, and we all discussed the idea, and this thing started operating, and it grew quite rapidly, but it reached its limits very quickly because it was manual. It was people just using a spreadsheet, and all the advertising and all that was on paper and using the postal system. So it couldn't grow very fast. And then the internet came along, and then we learned the skills of databases and building up membership lists and all that sort of thing. And we launched our system in 2002. And I think it was the first, although we called it Let's in the beginning, it's sort of way beyond what Let's is. Let's was really designed for discrete communities. And right from the beginning, our system was really to create local communities, but to link them all up so that ultimately you could trade between them. And the very first one we started here in Cape Town. We also had a community. There was an outfit called the South African New Economics Network, which consisted of several hundred people who were interested in discussing alternative economic ideas. And we held regular meetings and seminars and presentations and all kinds of things. And then we discussed talking about an alternative exchange system, and we looked at various things in time banking and Let's and so on. We decided to create a manual Let's. And just at this point, I and some others had been working on internet software, and we showed it to the committee, and they all loved the idea. And it really took off very rapidly because we had this community in place, and we really just signed up everybody and immediately started having markets, and we had a committee of about 25 people. It took off very rapidly. And then people around the country heard about it, and we created separate instances for them. And what we noticed is that they didn't really take off, at least not in the same way that our group did. And we created more and more of these things, and some of them failed very quickly. Some of them never got off the ground. And it became clear to us that you really need a bunch of people before you can start. In this era, obviously, you can't, it's a chicken and egg thing. Does the community come first, or does the software come first? I think all of our experience is that if you don't have some kind of a community that you start from, then the software is not very useful. When we looked into it, every time one of these groups forms, I go in with the satellite map and I look at the community to see what it looks like. And the successful ones are always small towns rather than big cities. Virtually none of them work because I don't know what the real explanation is, but people see something on the internet, they sign up, and they think that simply by becoming an instance and you have access to this software, that the group will just form by itself. And it doesn't. You really have to work on it. You have to get out there and advertise it in the community. You have to hold meetings. And when you've got a small number of people, you have to have markets, and you really have to do work. And on the website, it explains all of that. It says, what does it mean to be an administrator of a group? It says, you need to start off with a community. And the software, as you said yourself, Gabriele, is just a tool. It's not the community itself. And the community can't self-form. So, yeah, I was just saying that I think our experiences are very similar. And we have discussed this amongst ourselves in the past. And so, okay, I'll stop there.
So Anita, we haven't heard from Anita. It would be lovely to get your thoughts and opinions on this, Anita.
I wanted to kind of change the subject a little bit because it really does have a lot to do with whether your software is successful, especially when you're working with communities, is how, Gabriele, did you deal with training? And now you said you're going to have a new release. So how do you train these communities on your software? Because that itself, I've noticed, has been a big challenge for us. Technology, people fear it sometimes. They're like, oh, okay, what am I supposed to do? And it's sometimes I feel like, man, it's the simplest thing. We're asking you to put a picture of your community, and they're like, logo? We don't have a logo. Or it seems nonsensical and small to me, but it's a big deal. So how have you handled getting this training to all, all people of different, technological, the spectrum of, low tech to high tech kind of thing.
Is a constant learning, and also trends and fashions and society changes so fast. So it's sometimes we underestimate the work that you need to put into the technology, into the platform. As Tim was saying, of course, is the chicken or the egg. But I think once you decide you're the chicken or you're the egg, you have to put like all the effort in trying to make it as best as possible. You really have to constantly upgrade and make it better and ameliorate your product. And I mean that, so that's why I believe that you can tackle the issue from both from both sides. And if you decided to start with a platform, you really have to work extremely hard to develop the best tool, the best platform that everybody can use, super simple, super easy to understand, so they can turn into something valuable.
What you're identifying is the importance of purpose. That if you don't have a reason to do it, and you're not wedded to that reason, your own emotional energy drains. What I've been looking at is the problem of social isolation, because if you get to talk to people about whether they feel alone, whether they feel connected, and what the consequences of that are, both politically and in terms of ecology and the sustainability of the planet and civil rights. The other group that feels isolated is elders. Basically, they're throwaway people. And the whole question of how you find purpose and meaning and how you take on meaning, I think we have to step out of our concern about the digital tools, because they're there now. But the issue, and I think that we're doing much more than creating simply a digital tool. We're really saying that that social isolation is a pathology, and that we need to deal with that pathology if we're going to save either the planet or deal with some of the pathologies that we see in politics and in economics. Discussing cause, discussing purpose becomes a very important part of what we need to take as a next step.
I totally agree. So I think technology and creating a platform based on a different operating system, which is time banking, is essential. So you offer like an alternative or a complementary system. And that's, I think, it's extremely important, because we all know that the market economy today is based on scarcity and hoarding, basically, right? So what about creating like a platform where actually you create an economic system that is based in abundance and reciprocity? And that's the quote that I love from Buckminster Fuller, that you never change things by fighting the existing reality, but you change things by building a new model that makes the existing obsolete, which is beautiful, because not only it means that you have to create a new operating system, but you're not creating a competition with the existing system. This this battle that we constantly think that we have to fight, we have to create a revolution, we have to kill each other in order to create something better. No, we can just provide a superior tool. So it's just provide a better tool, and the tool will change your mind. So this is the way I see like technology and the platform, which is, I think, is much more organic. It's not as cold as just like a digital thing that we put out.
I'd like to comment on some of the things that you've been saying, Gabriele, and that have come forward. And I think what I'd like to point to is the difference between talking, community of talking, and community of acting. And I think that one of the challenges, so when you see Facebook, so much of it is around talking. And then you have, for instance, the the not interchange isn't quite right, the flow between talking, listening, and acting, and getting a good balance between those things is really important. And when I hear Martin talk, actually, what I hear you talking about, Martin, about that is an awful lot of where's the talking, where's the listening, and where's the acting. It's like all of those three things have to go together. And I think one of the challenges of digital platforms is that they can lead to an awful lot of talk and not a lot of the action that builds the trust. You know, when you shared about the town in Italy, they came and did the Christmas tree, and it's like, boom, those are the things that create the community. All of this chitter chatter on Facebook creates something different to do that. It supports the action, but not the chatter, and you need both. It's really fun to just explore these things and try and piece things that maybe should be obvious to all of us, but they don't feel so obvious, actually. So, you know, I'm hearing Tim. When I hear Tim talk, it's about how you link these things together, the ideas, the chitter chatter, and the action.
We are dealing with the prison that a monetary system has created.
Also, we tend to underestimate that in order to create community, you have to have a very high purpose. So today we live also in a society, you know, everybody has like millions of purposes. Everybody can find, you know, truth under any rock, and everybody has their own goal, own vision. So it's very hard to create community because the focus is like is dispersed everywhere. We tend to underestimate the power of the narrative of your community, or what you want to achieve. You know, it's not just, you know, kumbaya moment, let's get people together and let's share. I think it's, you know, the vision has to be, the focus has to be something higher.
Okay. I've got a question, final one for me, Gabriele. At least the government here is starting to hold these, you know, social media companies trying to suddenly hold to a higher standard. How do you feel that your software will be affected? Do you feel like you'll also have to make sure that the communities that are created are noble and not, you know, do you have any things put in place to like control the types of communities that are created?
Not really. You know, once we have like 1 million communities and we see how they behave, maybe, you know, we readjust the design into maybe things that we were more interested in developing more like. So we, for sure, in the future we'll try to readjust. But now we're in a phase where basically we've been basically dictating in a way the narrative for this past 8 years, and people know what we are about. At least 100,000 people that they're on today, and so I think it's a group big enough that can actually take it to the next level by themselves. I think the narrative is pretty much there, and now we kind of let it grow organically and see how it goes. And then, like, as I said, you know, you constantly need to reiterate and readjust. But at this stage, yes, we kind of in the stage where like you have to let your kid go and hope for the best without too much control. And so that's where we are at right now. I don't know if you answered the question you were asking.
Not exactly, but that's fine. You just haven't dealt with like hate groups joining and creating communities.
No, we never had that issue, and that's also the beauty and of time banking, that it actually attracts people that are like positive people. You know, you don't attract people that actually try to exploit the system. So it's, I think, you know, as I said, for 8 years, I think we were pretty clear what we were trying to do, and we designed the platform to just leverage on those positive dynamics. And, you know, we hope for the best. Of course, you know, if you're gonna have like 8 billion users, we'll have to, you know, police it probably a little bit better. But for now, you know, we basically never had any issue of that kind. You know, it's.
So I think that it's really time for us to have our sort of wrap up comments and and bring this really interesting discussion to an end. So thank you so much, Gabriele, coming on and talking with us. And out of this discussion, you get to have the lead person with the closing comment. So anything you'd like to say to close out this comment, and then each of us will in turn follow up.
This morning I prepared two quotes. One that I already spent is the Buckminster Fuller, which is, I truly believe, as a, to paraphrase it, that we really need to create a different operating system that leverages on different dynamics. And then the second one is my favorite, that what's basically keeps my hope alive and gives me strength every day. It's Edgar's quote. I can read that for everybody, and basically saying that all the current economic planning omits an economy that is much more important. It's called home, family, neighborhood, community, civil society that raises children, keeps neighborhoods safe and vibrant, raises strong families, takes care of the elderly, gets involved in things like election, tries to make democracy work, holds officials accountable, fights for social justice, and tries to keep the planet sustainable. So this is, I think this is, what makes us fighting this war. And that's what's, I think it's the best quote that I think I can think to describe what we're trying to do and what we're striving for.
So who would like to go next?
Just to follow on, Gabriele, I heard Buckminster Fuller talk in the 1970s. It's an amazing experience. And he was saying that we'll have the technology, we have at our disposal the technology to provide people with everything that they need. And as long as we share, but he said it's going to take people 50 years to realize it. This was in the 1970s. I just suddenly thought, that's 50 years ago. Okay, let's go for it now, because we have everything we need if we just use what we have and share. So it's blindingly obvious. And the final point, Edgar talked about purpose. He reminded me of I trained as a community organizer years and years ago, and we used to talk about enlightened self-interest. I think that's about as far as we can go today. I'm not sure there's a widespread desire to challenge capitalism. I think people get too much out of it. They go on demonstrations and then go into Starbucks for their coffee. But enlightened self-interest is a good working thing to get people out to experience the solidarity of doing things together. And then that works for itself. And once people experience solidarity, mental health improves.
Yeah, I'd just like to say how similar our experiences are. When you talk about kind of people that are attracted to these platforms are essentially the honest people. They come in and their basic assumption is that everyone's honest and trustworthy, and you have to prove that you're not trustworthy. So the money system says you're guilty until proven innocent, and we say you're innocent until you're proven guilty. And it really works. And those are the kind of people who come in, and you soon learn that there's no point in cheating. And the other point is the social media. Like every other country in the world, we had lockdown here, and our trading took a massive dip and just about stopped. And then we decided to have create online markets using WhatsApp and Telegram and these things. And they were remarkably successful. And we've kept them going, even though now we can have real markets again. There are a lot of trading and a lot of chatting goes on. And we talked about chatting a bit earlier, and this is how it happens. These social media platforms are very good, and that's also something perhaps we need to build into our own software.
We could even take it further. It's not only that time banking or those platforms attract only the good people. Maybe everybody's good once you offer like a positive operating system. Maybe you're able to extract the good even out of the people that usually they corrupt. So that's that's why it's, to me, is essential. The design of the platform is essential. And I don't know if you guys saw the Social Dilemma, the Netflix video about how how you design the platform, it dictates, its behavior, the behavior of the user. So it's, the responsibility of the people that design those platforms have to take into account that, if you leverage on good behavior, if you design it for good behavior, you're going to have good outcome, and the other, the opposite is true.
This brings our sharing session to an end. If this sharing session inspires you to learn more, please check out communityexchangealliance.org or on Twitter at com_exchange. You can join us as an individual, a network, a platform, or a community. You will also find notices of upcoming sharing sessions and more information about the Alliance. So that is, I would like to say thank you to all and goodbye.
No, I don't want to waste what's left. And on we'll go. Through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays.